Yeah, we are again, and welcome to What, and Series 16, number 9. We're going to talk about how Joseph resisted temptation and what happens after that. We're looking at Genesis 39, and we'll start at verse 7, where there's an invitation from Potiphar's wife. It says this, "And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast a longing eyes on Joseph. And she said, 'Lie with me.' But he refused and said to his master's wife, 'Look, my master does not know what it is with me in the house, and he has committed all that he has to my hand. There is no greater in the house than I, nor has he kept back anything from me but you, because you are his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?' So it was, as she spoke to Joseph day by day, that he did not heed her, to lie with her or to be with her." This is a tough one, isn't it? The master's wife cast longing eyes. Last week we talked about how he was a good-looking bloke. And she's saying, "Hey, come, lie with me. Basically, have sex with me." Potiphar's wife was undeniably forward towards Joseph. Literally, now hang on, Potiphar is called a eunuch. Remember, we talked about that last week too. If Potiphar was literally castrated as a eunuch, this shows that his wife looked for sexual activity elsewhere. Maybe Potiphar's wife felt deprived. Perhaps Potiphar was, yes, the eunuch, and the marriage was purely a ceremonial arrangement. It may be felt she had to pursue her sexual pleasure outside of marriage. This attitude is common today, isn't it? Our modern culture tells us that we are deprived unless we pursue every sexual desire we feel. This is a lie and makes our sexual desires gods that rule over us. We need to be careful. Also, it seemed that in the ancient Egyptian culture, that there were fairly low moral expectations on women, even married women. It was assumed that women would have sex outside of marriage. Potiphar's wife wasn't looking for a relationship, just a good time. Again, our modern culture tells us that sex is great and often apart from meaningful relationships. There's great parallel there, isn't there? The truth is, both biblically and lived out in life, is that sex is far better in a committed married relationship when it means something. The concept that Joseph was an attractive man, which we talked about last week, and perhaps this had something to do with it, that he seemed to be beyond the reach of Potiphar's wife, was also probably a factor. If this was so, then she was not the first or last woman who tried to seduce a man out of a sense of challenge or in seeking self-worth. Potiphar's wife may have looked at Joseph with a desperate attempt to feel desirable and worth something herself. The thing is, she says, "Lie with me." She's upfront about it. This was bold and a strong temptation to a young bloke. It reminds us that when we face strong temptations, others have been faced with the same. Satan wants us to think that our temptation is unique, that no other person could understand what we're going through in a particular temptation. But there is no temptation that has overtaken us except that which is common among people. And that comes from 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13. Slavery itself was a small calamity compared with what would have happened to young Joseph if he had been enslaved by this woman and her passions. How would have God reacted to that? But how he reacted is truly in comparison to his relationship with God.